Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
I believe government buildings, public facilities should represent everybody, not just a certain group.
I think it's a great thing. I think it was a tragic situation that what happened in Charleston, but those 9 victims gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for the greater good of the state of South Carolina.
Frank Martin and Dawn Staley both speaking today, and both speaking about the Confederate flag and voicing their opinions that the flag should be removed from the State House grounds. Martin had a very lengthy release on Sunday that he issued, and then today elaborated on that. You'll hear from Frank Martin later in the program. You'll also hear from Dawn Staley. They both had more to talk about than the Confederate flag debate, although is it really it's not as much of a dig anymore. It seems to be more of just momentum towards that thing coming down, at least in the public eye. I know there are still people out there that feel strongly about it, but it does seem like from a public standpoint, every major university, every major coach in our state, for the most part, has spoken in favor of backing Nikki Haley and the other lawmakers that want to bring that thing down.
Yeah, but there's some lawmakers who've been there a long time, and they know how to stonewall and filibuster, and you're going to have some that's going to be right there on the right side.
Well, you cover news. I mean, to me, just from a sports guy watching it from the outside, it looks like the momentum's there where it's going to happen.
I'm
already booking NCAA regional appearances here in Greenville and Charleston and Columbia. Am I getting ahead of the?
I've seen the break strong momentum before. Some of those guys can blow a strong ill wind in the other direction and stonewall something. It'll be interesting to see how it works out. But I agree with you that it probably will come down. But see, the key point then is now is everything going to be hunky-dory for lifting the boycott and then having the regionals?
Well, you would think so. And then Dawn Staley was asked about that because her program probably has felt that as much as any program in the state, because they had to go all the way out on the West Coast year before last and play as a #1 seed on the opposite end of the country because of the NAACP boycott. But you've got to think if that flag comes down, the boycott will end and the NCAA will no longer prohibit NCAA regionals in basketball, ACC baseball tournament, which was on its way to Myrtle Beach and then was not after the flag flap. So if anything, maybe that'll be another positive aspect of moving forward.
Well, I've always contended that fans with money that travel, those are the ones that travel to see their teams. And Georgia and North Carolina have had tournament games all through the years while South Carolina has not. No entrepreneur is there to watch his Wisconsin team, his Kansas team, and say, wait a minute, this is a nice state. I'd like to set a business in South Carolina. You never know what kind of contacts you make.
No Corn tonight. He is on vacation, getting a little R&R, a little breath of air before we hit the dog days of summer. As we hit the dog days of summer and get ready for football, believe it or not, you're going to get your football fix hot and heavy here as the SEC Media Days cranks up in just a few weeks. That's followed by the ACC football kickoff. There will be plenty to talk about going into the football season. We have some football notes. We're going to still kick around a lot of different items as we get you ready. Everything you need to know going into the upcoming football season, you're going to learn right here on Sports Talk. You've got Kevin McCrary. You've got the Professor Tom Hayes behind the glass, Graham Pope, and Larkin Belton. We got a two-man crew working hard behind the scenes tonight. You can join us as well, 800-956-2666, a toll-free call for you wherever you are, around the state, around the country. Give us a buzz. We will jump to your phone calls. If you prefer the written word to the spoken word, talkback@sportstalksc.com is our email address, and we have some emails already coming in that we will get to tonight. If brevity is your thing and you like Twitter and 140 characters or less, you can interact with us at Sports Talk SC, or you can just follow us and see what we're tweeting about, see what links and stories we're posting. A lot of things end up on social media on the website, sportstalksc.com, where you can go and get in-depth coverage of everything we are doing, including recruiting. There's also a link to listen to the show live, a link to all of our multiple affiliates all over the Palmetto State. You can find them right there at sportstalksc.com. And if you're very brave and you don't have any young children around that could be scarred, we do have a video stream of our show every night at sportstalksc.com if you scroll down to the bottom of the page. But seriously, it's TVMA, not because of anything we're going to say. We keep it clean there, but it can be a little frightening when you see us for the first time there at sportstalksc.com. All right, mentioned we will hear from Frank Martin coming up later. He did talk with reporters after speaking to his campers. I actually saw Frank Martin give his little pep talk to the campers, and then he called them all in pro, and they got really close on top of him. He said, back up, and they, you know how little kids are. They don't listen the first time. They listened the second time. He gave him one of those very stern. Frank Martin ended it with an exclamation point, backups, and they backed up. So that was that, and then we went over to the Coliseum, and one Devin Downey was in there working out, and he can still flat shoot the rock. He's one of those guys. I'm surprised that an NBA team didn't put him on the end of their bench, a la, you know, like a JJ Barea type that can come in and give you some energy. Nate Robinson, he doesn't quite have, Pope mentioned Nate Robinson, he doesn't quite have that kind of athletic ability as Nate Robinson, who can jump out of the gym and won the dunk contest. But he is faster than a water bug, as Dave Odom once described him. And Frank Martin coached him at Cincinnati for 1 year before he left Kansas State, and we saw Downey transfer to South Carolina. But yeah, he was impressive. Yeah, maybe getting ready for some international play.
I don't think Downey got the look he should have. You know, years ago, I'll never forget when Spud Webb was cut by Detroit, and Atlanta picked him up. And this is what they said about Spud Webb. They told Mike Fratello, don't play him. He said, because if you play him and the fans see him, you won't be able to cut him. Well, to me, fans can see talent, and if they're excited about this talent, why not play him? I remember when Muggsy Bogues played with the Hornets, everybody talks about ideal size, but they don't think about unideal size can be an asset. When Charlotte used to throw their press up with on the back end of their press, and, you know, you had Alonzo Mourning back there as a shot blocker, nobody could see where Muggsy was. So guys would bring the ball up court, and then suddenly somebody else has their dribble. See, him being so small, he could go under guys and just take the ball. So he used a detriment as an asset. So sometimes, you know, I could see Devin Downey doing the same thing, because before his size, he's very strong also. And we've seen him finish at the rim against guys, you know, twice as tall as
Yeah,
he is.
one of the great players to come through South Carolina, but his NBA window probably close to closed, if not already closed, but certainly can make a good living overseas. And watching him work out before we talked to Frank Martin today, he has not lost much off that jump shot, to say the least. We will hear from Frank Martin. He did talk about the flag, as you heard in the open. He also elaborated on other things, updated his team. He's got his first look at PJ Dozier, the highly touted McDonald's All-American, coming into the program. And they've got a good group of upperclassmen, and Frank Martin feels very good coming in at the bottom of the hour. Dawn Staley, who has her bags packed, she's about to hit the road for Colorado Springs. She's the coach of the Team USA U19 squad. She'll have one of her own players on there. Asia Wilson will be on that team, and two of her other players are going to be playing in the Pan America Games. That would be Tiffany Mitchell and Elena Coates. They'll also go to Colorado Springs, and then they'll go their separate ways. Staley and Asia Wilson will have a pit stop in Barcelona or somewhere in Spain before they go to Russia for their championships. And Wilson, our Coates and Mitchell, will head to Canada for the Pan American Games. Well, they'll both be teams will be competing for gold medals. So we caught up with Dawn Staley today to talk about that. We'll hear from her in hour number 2. A few notes to pass along. LSU, who will be playing at Williams-Brice Stadium this season, they will not have one of their defensive tackles. Trey Liala-Lamatofo is off the team. LSU's Les Miles sent him packing. In a brief statement released Monday afternoon, LSU announced Leila Lamatofo. I've been trying to get that right all day. I think I've actually got it down. I may say the wrong thing. I think the play-by-play guy, our buddy Chris Blair, is probably not unhappy to see this guy go, so he doesn't have to call his name on Saturdays. But he is dismissed from the team. A statement confirmed by the reaction of an off-field incident that was previously reported earlier this month. He was arrested and charged for simple battery and simple robbery. The incident allegedly occurred in the parking lot of a bar in Baton Rouge. According to the original reports, he beat another man unconscious and punched that alleged victim's girlfriend in the face. As if that wasn't bad enough. As if that wasn't enough, there's more. He decided, well, he's going to go for the trifecta here. He picked the guy's pocket before he left. Oh, no. So if Les Miles doesn't even wait, normally he puts the thing to a vote. Let's see what's going to happen. Oh, the team decided to keep him around, but no, that's not going to be the case. So no, Leah Lamatofo will be on the LSU defensive line when the Tigers roll into Columbia. Clemson defensive lineman Grady Jarrett. I didn't know this. You're a Falcons fan. Did you realize his family's home burned down shortly before the draft? Well, yeah, I knew about that. They publicized, but I thought it was just severe damage because it started, I think, in the garage, the apartment above the garage. I had an idea. Probably water and smoke damage is what did it in. Yeah, he's still working on getting that rectified and hopes to have that straightened out before the start of a training camp. The Falcons have high expectations for Jarrett and, of course, his fellow rookie and former Tiger teammate Vic Beasley on that Atlanta Falcon defense. The Braves report coming up with Mike Morgan. Atlanta managed to salvage the final game in Pittsburgh. They lost 5 in a row before they lost before they won that game. Yeah, the offense has gone stagnant. They'll open up a series with the Nationals tomorrow night. They are off tonight. They are 6 games behind the Nats now. They were 2 games behind at this time last week, so they are going in reverse fast, and the June swoon could swallow them if they don't find a way to pick up some wins at Turner Field against the Washington Nationals. It could be 8-9 games back at the end of that series if it doesn't turn around for them. I don't know what the deal is. They got a tremendous team. They should be running away from that division, but they can't for some reason. Email coming in from Larry, talkback@sportstalksc.com is our email address. Will anybody ever ask Dabo, did he kick Battle off the team? No sports writer for our joke of a newspaper here in Anderson will even print that he was given a citation for having the marijuana. Well, nobody's talked to Dabo because he's not doing media right now. It's the middle of the summer. We will talk to Dabo soon. He will be holding his annual media golf tournament. We'll be there for that. And shortly after that, he'll be in Greensboro for the ACC football kickoff. And I promise you, Isaiah Battle's name will come up. But in the meantime, that's the way these things kind of happen in the summer. Most of what you're going to get from head coaches is going to be in June and the first part of July. It's going to be in the form of a statement. We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about this last week. The Battle press release coming down from Clemson indicating that he had decided to enter the NFL supplemental draft because of family reasons. And he cited the fact that he had a baby on the way this summer. It didn't really mesh with the report in the ClemsonInsider.com by Will Vandervoort that did cite the citation for marijuana. It wasn't an arrest for marijuana, but he had 12 grams of marijuana, which, or was it 12 ounces? I don't know if it was 12. I don't know. Pope was it ounces or grams? Do you remember? To look it up.
I'm going to guess it was grams. I'll take a look.
Yeah, probably grams. Ounces would be a lot more. So either way, according to the report in the ClemsonInsider.com, that was the final strike with Dabo Swinney, and Isaiah Battle had to go. So that doesn't really mesh up with the release that Clemson put out that he just entered the supplemental draft for family considerations. And we talked about the fact that that didn't seem quite right. But Dabo will have an opportunity to talk about this if he so chooses, and he will certainly be asked if Battle had a team violation that led to that decision. I promise you, he'll be asked that. I don't think this talk, I know everybody's loves the Oliver Stone conspiracy theory, and that's been running hot and heavy now at Clemson over the past couple of weeks because of the length of time it took to find out about certain incidents. So Amon Lakeup arrest happened early in the month, and we didn't find out about it until last week. But again, it's the summer, and it was 12 grams. Okay, so it wasn't ounces. But still, 12 grams and not arrested. He's fortunate there, but not fortunate enough to avoid Dabo Swinney's ire, according to the report. When you suspend a guy and send him home, is it your obligation to put out a press release if you're that school in the middle of the summer? If you're suspending a guy. Now, what it tells me, if you want to look further into it, is Dabo Swinney is going to definitely give this kid an opportunity to return to the team. If not, the release would have been Amon Lakeup is no longer a member of the Clemson football team. We wish him the best. But that wasn't the release. It was Amon Lakeup has been sent home, and we will address this situation and the suspension revisited in the summer. Frank Martin coming up.
It's not anything negative, you know. On the contrary, I think it's positive. I think I tried to express my feelings through love.
Let's jump into some comments from Frank Martin, who released a statement on the Confederate flag Sunday. Today, he began his meeting with the media, elaborating on that statement.
It's not anything negative, you know. On the contrary, I think it's positive. I think I tried to express my feelings through love, not any dislike for anything. And I understand that means a lot to a lot of people. Believe me, it's you know, I come from a country where slavery existed, and you know, and it's I believe government buildings, public facilities should represent everybody, not just a certain group, and you should be in a place where you respect everyone that represents that community in those places. And I just I believe that like I said, this community is unbelievable. It's this country's unbelievable. This community's unbelievable. The people here, the way that our the leaders of this community, the population of the state, the way that they've handled difficult moments over the last, I don't know, 3 months or so, they're to be commended. And you know, this state offers unbelievable love. The people here are incredible, and that's how I feel. And I just thought I'd make that public. I think a lot of times, you know, we're coaches. You know, we're teachers. We're not into trying to change policies. It's not what I'm trying to do here. I just thought that it was important for me to express how I felt, and I end up coaching a lot of minorities. That's the majority of the people that I coach. It's who I am. It's who my kids are, and I felt that giving minorities a voice was important, and that's what I did. But I'm not disrespecting the history of the flag, the history of the state. I fully embrace that. That's the fabric that makes us the great place that we are right now.
Some past coaches have said they thought maybe that was affecting recruiting. Have you ran into that at all since you've been here with the flag?
No. It's I have not had one conversation with a recruit from the north, the south, in town, out of town, upstate, downstate, east, west, California. Not single conversation with anybody about that flag being a deterrent for us in recruiting.
Frank, you have kind of a unique background, given that you and your family have come from somewhere else and assimilated. Do you feel like that gives you a perspective on this issue that maybe some people don't have?
Here's where I'm a little uncomfortable. You know, it's you know, this is not this is my adopted home. Hopefully my home 30 years from now. Hopefully my grandchildren are born here. I mean, that's the way I'd like to be. It's difficult for me to express my feelings about a place that has taken me in, not a place that my family was a part of 100 years ago. But then again, you know, this is an unbelievable country, and this country is united. This country offers opportunities regardless of your background, regardless of your skin color, your religious belief, or whatever it may be. It's the beauty of this country. I just, you know, I'm for opening doors. I'm not for closing doors. I'm for educating. I'm for moving forward. You know, I don't care what walk of life you're in. Basketball coach, heck, 2 years ago, I was in a very uncomfortable place with what I did in the middle of a game. You know, we all end up in our experiences in difficult moments. How we handle those moments and get better from those moments determines who we become. It's the same thing with the history of the state. That I don't think it's any surprise the love that has been shown by the members of this community, lifelong members of this community, during difficult times. I don't think it's any surprise that our neighbors have acted in such a positive, caring way about getting better, because the fabric of the state, what creates the people of the state to be as good as they are, is that they did experience some uncomfortable moments and uncomfortable times. And there are people that have a lot of pride for what the state represents and where it comes from, and the growth that it continues to show. And, you know, I said this the other day, how many other states and city capitals can claim to have a minority for a mayor and a minority female for a governor? There's not too many other places could say that. So people here in the state are not being held back. There's not a division, and I haven't seen it. If there is, you know, as an outsider that's tasting this for the first time, like I have in different communities around the country, I haven't seen it. I see the complete opposite. I see a group of people that really care, that love. There's some uncomfortable things about its history, but everyone wants to educate and move forward. Everybody knows that to continue to open up doors for people like me, we need each other, and I think this state represents that better than any state I've ever been around.
How's Tamarcus Blanton's injury coming?
Yeah, he's if it was up to him, he'd try to jump off the upper deck here and land on the court. But we have to kind of hold him back a little bit. He was supposed to be doing the stuff he's doing now in August. So he's about 2 months ahead of schedule. As far as sprinting, running, cutting, jumping, he does everything in the weight room and conditioning and agilities, even when we're on the court, with the exception of competing. We're not allowing him to go in live competition yet in areas, but they do everything else. And we don't need to overload them. Neither one. You know, we don't have a game next week, so we don't need Sindarius worried about speed of cuts and timing in a competitive environment right now. He's done that for 2 years. He understands. And with Tamarcus, it's, an injury that's not. I want him to be this is not my place. But in my conversation with your trainer, I don't think they've ever found, researching, another basketball player that's ever suffered the injury Tamarcus suffered. So it's kind of Newfoundland for everyone in this right now. And but his work ethic is so good that his body has gotten so strong so fast that his bones have healed and he's been cleared. So, we're just no need for him to compete right now.
At the end of the season press conference, you told us that you didn't think Dozier got enough. You'd like to say once he plays some growth. What's kind of growth you've seen from Dozier this summer?
Yeah, it's we came in the weight room and him and the garbage can have become best friends that first week. I mean, every time I turn around, his head was inside of it, and he's such a talented human being. As a person, as a teammate, and obviously as a player. Here's when I said that I don't think he gets the coverage that I think he deserves. Think about this. He goes to the McDonald's All-American game. Everyone's aware of that. He's a kid from Columbia, South Carolina. The game's in Chicago. They practice for 7 days, and they go play the game. The guy coaching his team is a longtime high school coach in the city of Chicago. The highest rated point guard on the team is on his team, Rick Brunson's son. After 7 practices, they started PJ, and PJ played the majority of the minutes. If that kind of shows who he is and how good he is as a person, as a player, the way he was receptive to whatever instructions were given at that game, his ability to coexist with other real good players. It's a big part of who he is, and I don't think I should say I don't think I do think that we, myself included, kind of take that for granted a little bit when it comes to PJ Dozier.
You're going to have some flexibility.
You can get more of Frank Martin on our website, sportstalksc.com. It's time for our Braves Report, brought to you by Play It Again Sports off Bauer Parkway in Columbia, where you pay less for more. Chris Mosley and the friendly staff will help you with the best selection of golf clubs in the Midlands for adults and juniors. By Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals. And by Mattress by Appointment, real simple. You call, you save 80% on premium mattress sets. Call 803-816-0577. 803-816-0577. Mike Morgan joining us on the line now. Well, at least the Braves salvaged that final game, Mike, so they're not going home with a 6-game losing streak, but they are going home down 6 games to the NL East to Washington.
Yeah, they are, and Washington has certainly had Atlanta's number. They're not just beating the Braves in these games during this rather imposing 8-game losing streak to the Nationals. They've been getting just clobbered. They've been absolutely dominated in every way, shape, and form. The pitching staff against the Nationals this year has an earned run average of 6.58. They've surrendered 13 home runs. 13 home runs. Meanwhile, the Nats' ERA against Atlanta is a little over 3. So you get the idea. It's been a very one-sided matchup. That should not be the case tonight with Shelby Miller on the mound. And if anybody in Major League Baseball deserves to pick up a win, it'd be Shelby Miller, who's been sitting on 5 wins for over a month now. He got off to a tremendous start this season. Looked like a guy who would be a candidate to start the All-Star game. He's been humbled a little bit, but for the most part, they just don't hit for Shelby Miller. At some point, that's got to change. They've got to score some runs for him. And, aside from standings and, divisional chases and how many games back everybody is, this guy just deserves a win. And I get the feeling from everybody in the clubhouse, they want to win tonight for Shelby Miller if nobody else.
No, we're talking about tomorrow night now. Aren't they off tonight?
They are off tonight, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tomorrow night,
okay.
I beg your pardon.
Well, the interesting thing is, Mike, a lot of these games almost seems just like the Pittsburgh game. There's always one in the series where the Braves just sit there and they're either is 1-0 or it's 2-1, 2-2. And the other team just say, well, let's just last it out till they have to go into the bullpen. And then that's when everything breaks. And this time, I guess it was Grilly the other day that gave up the winning run in the bottom of the 10th inning. So it seems like teams are just waiting on the Braves to see how far they can go till they can get to that bullpen.
Yeah, and of course, Alex Wood went deep into the game yesterday, and he's very quietly had a good year for Atlanta. This pitching staff, the headliners have been Shelby Miller for good reasons and Julio Teheran for bad reasons because he's been a disappointment this year. Look, Grilly picked up another save yesterday. I can't beat up on Grilly because considering the role that he's been forced to use this year or to play this year, a guy who's 38 years old and you're sitting there on 21, 22 saves, that's about all you could have possibly asked out of Jason Grilly. It's the guys that are coming in innings 6, 7, and 8 that have been a dumpster fire. Now, they have improved a little bit here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, but overall it's clear the soft underbelly of this team. It's clearly going to be an issue all year long. You don't all of a sudden become really good when you're that bad, you're that inexperienced, you don't have a track record of being good, which most of the guys they're wheeling out there, they don't have anything on the back of the baseball card that says they're going to turn it around. So, the trade deadline, we'll talk more about that as we get ready to turn the calendar to July. The Braves will obviously be a player to pick up some arms. They're not going to spend a lot or give up a lot, but I really think they're going to do something to augment a bullpen that at times has looked like the worst in baseball.
So you don't think they're going to make any other big dumps? I mean, they're going to be a seller at the end of the deadline, you would think, at the rate they're going.
It's kind of funny because obviously that was the case in the offseason. They dumped a lot of money, but because they did that, now they feel like they can spend some. If you look at the deal that made, the Bronson Arroyo deal, which was really more about the pitcher that's now in the minors, the young 19-year-old, they actually wind up losing money in that deal. That deal was a salary dump for Arizona, but the Braves thought it was worth it because they believe they've got a stud pitcher that's going to be in the rotation for years to come. So it wouldn't surprise me if they actually spent a little money, not a lot, but if it's young arms, they're willing to spend some coin because they they shed so much payroll with the moves they made in the offseason.
Mike, we appreciate it. We'll catch up with you tomorrow night when the Braves open the series with the Washington Nationals at Turner Field, and that will be a chance for the Braves to either get back in it in the NL East or perhaps begin the further free fall out of the race. They've dropped from second to third place. Now the Mets have passed them, and again, the Nationals look like the team to beat right now.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is you go to a Braves fan and say, we're not playing worth a crap. But if you're an astute fan and you see the arms they're piling up and you're saying, wait a minute, maybe 2017 is the year they were talking about, because they've got some great young arms they've acquired.
Recruiting coming up next. Don't go away. Let's jump into some recruiting, beginning with defensive back Devron Davis out of Merced Junior College in California. He did not stay committed to Colorado State very long. That commitment lasted for just 3 days, from the 18th of June to the 21st. After receiving a flurry of more impressive offers, such as LSU, Oregon, Texas A&M, Florida State, Arizona State, and Nebraska, Davis backed off that commitment to the Rams. Now he's looking around again. USC was one of the earlier offers, and he's remained in contact with Gamecock recruiter Lorenzo Ward. He's a native of Miami, and he's planning on visiting Nebraska, Oregon, Arizona State, and Florida State, and the Ducks are his favorite right now. Will Putnam of Harrisburg, North Carolina, said Sunday he plans to visit USC July 13th or one day that week before he makes his decision. Putnam attended USC's camp earlier this month. He recently visited Virginia Tech and has the Gamecocks and the Hokies tied at the top of his list. He'll make a decision soon after the USC visit. River Bluff defensive back Brandon Tillman drew some interest in football and baseball for major programs like Clemson, USC, Auburn, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest. But Sunday, Tillman made the decision not to wait on a decision from them and decided to accept a football offer from Liberty with the promise of baseball as well, as long as he maintains his grades. So he'll be playing for former Gamecock assistant Coach Toman there at Liberty. Defensive end Xavier Kelly of Wichita released his top 8 schools today. Clemson, Alabama, Florida State, Michigan, Georgia, Kansas State, Oregon, and TCU are the 8 schools. Clemson was a stop that he visited earlier this spring. Defensive lineman Antoine Jackson of Ellenwood, Georgia, will announce a top 4 July 4th. He has USC and Clemson offers, but neither appears to be strongly in the mix with him at this point. He's the half-brother of USC linebacker Bryson Allen Williams. 2017 defensive end Malik Herring of Forsyth, Georgia, and 2017 linebacker Jaden Hunter of Atlanta visited Clemson over the weekend. Tight end Nasir Upshur of Philadelphia has a top 8 of USC, Southern Cal, Temple, Michigan, Alabama, Florida State, Maryland, and Arizona State. Bamberg Earhart offensive lineman Drew Wilson committed to Georgia Southern Saturday, and USC target defensive back Marlon Character Jr. was at Alabama Sunday for a camp. Some basketball news. Clemson offered 2017 prospect 6'3" Blake Karras out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina during a visit today. Some of his other offers are Miami, Virginia Tech, Cincinnati, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Wake Forest. And a commitment for the Clemson baseball team, 2017 first baseman outfielder Matthew Cooper, 6'3", 210 pounds, out of Virginia Beach, committed to Clemson today. He's the Tigers' second commitment for the 2017 class for Monty Lee. Top of the hour break, all sorts of things to get into in hour number 2. Deshaun Watson, rated as the number 1 quarterback by an outlet. We'll tell you what list he's on and who are some of the other quarterbacks of note. And Dawn Staley coming up in hour number 2 as well. And your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Plenty more to do here on Sports Talk.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
On the PGA Tour, you always had Tiger Woods. He's turned into the villain, and Phil Mickelson's always been the people's champion. But Phil Mickelson might have a dark side, too, that we're learning more about now. A report on ESPN's Outside the Lines saying that millions of dollars from Phil Mickelson is now tied to a money laundering and gambling case. Nearly $3 million transferred from Phil Mickelson to an intermediary was part of an illegal gambling operation which accepted and placed bets on sporting events, according to two sources and court documents obtained by Outside the Lines. Mickelson has not been charged with a crime and is not under federal investigation, but a 56-year-old former sports gambling handicapper acting as a conduit for an offshore gambling operation pleaded guilty last week to laundering approximately $2.75 million of money that two sources told Outside the Lines belonged to Mickelson. So people will be following that case closely, I'm sure. It's no big secret that Phil Mickelson likes to gamble.
Well, didn't he pick the Super Bowl winner that was a long shot, and the Padres would win the pennant one year, and he collected a ton of money on those two bets? I can't remember when he did them, but they used to talk about that.
Yeah, when you remember last year, Mickelson made off-the-course news when his name surfaced in an ongoing federal insider trading investigation, which also involved billionaire investment tycoons and iconic sports gambler and entrepreneur Billy Walters. Carl Icahn was the investment tycoon. Mickelson has been cleared in one of the alleged instances of insider trading, and it's unclear whether federal authorities are still investigating well-timed trades of another stock. So Mickelson's earned more than $77 million over his 3 decades on the PGA Tour, and also has lucrative endorsement deals with Callaway, Barclays, KPMG, ExxonMobil, Rolex, among others. I don't even know who half those logos are on Phil Mickelson. The hat.
He's tatted up.
I have no idea what half of that stuff
Well,
is.
part of it, I think, and we remember when he was going great guns, and maybe he still does it, that Tiger was said to hang around the roulette wheel a lot. I think it's the rush. Those guys are always competing, and they're off the golf course, and they still need this rush.
Well,
some of them get it by wagering.
In 2001, Mickelson was reprimanded by the PGA Tour after winning $500 from Mike Weir in the Players Lounge at the NEC Invitational. Mickelson wagered $20 at 25-1 odds that Jim Furyk would hole a bunker shot. Could you imagine sitting there with Phil Mickelson? All right, $20, 25-1. So I guess the PGA Tour did not like that. Mickelson has won larger sums, as Pro mentioned, betting on major events like the Super Bowl. 3 Las Vegas gaming sources told Outside the Line that Mickelson still bets on sports in Vegas, which is completely legal.
What did he and Pete Rose
laundering $3 million might not be as legal, but no charges, no investigation right now with Lefty. Former Alabama coach Anthony Grant is going with Billy Donovan to the NBA. He'll be an assistant coach with the Thunder. He had joined Donovan briefly at Florida after he was fired at Alabama, and then Donovan moved on to the NBA, and it looks like Grant will follow suit. Before Grant ended up in Gainesville, Frank Martin had openly expressed interest in bringing in Anthony Grant if he was interested, but obviously that didn't end up happening. There was an interesting story on Sports on Earth did a list, and that's where we are. This is the end of June, July. You get a lot of lists. You get list of preseason awards, the Mackey Award watch list, the Remington Award watch list. All of those come out about this time of year, and then other lists come out, top 10 coaches, top 10 running backs, top 10 Heisman candidates. Well, Sports on Earth did a top 25 quarterbacks in college football. I thought it was an interesting list. I'm not going to go through all 25, just the names that are of note. Number 25 on the list is Everett Golson at Florida State, the transfer from Notre Dame, the Myrtle Beach native. He will be leading the Florida State offense, and they have him number 25 on the list. And the guy that he ceded the job to at Notre Dame, Malik Zaire, is number 24 on that list. Jeremy Johnson, who hasn't taken a snap at Auburn as their quarterback, is number 23.
That's an interesting guy right there. I saw him take a couple snaps in the spring game. He's an interesting cat. I can't wait to see him in his first real live action.
Yeah, well, you know that offense at Auburn, as long as the Gus bus is rolling through there, they're going to be moving the ball and making it tough on defenses.
It'll be interesting because I was thinking the previous quarterback, who's now trying to be a defensive back in the NFL, Nick Marshall, made it look easier than it is because he was an athlete.
Let's skip to 21. Josh Dobbs is number 21 on the list.
Interesting to see how he develops, for sure.
Yeah, he was very good last year. Jacoby Brissett, a former Florida Gator, now at NC State, who had a great start to the season, and then he kind of fizzled as the year went along, but he's number 18 on the list. Mason Rudolph, kid from the upstate, now at Alabama State. They wanted to redshirt him last year, but he was thrust in action, and now he's rated by this organization as the number 17 quarterback in college football. Marquise Williams of North Carolina, who South Carolina will get a good look at in week 1.
We found out who the publisher of Sports on Earth is yet? Obviously, somebody from the Southeast.
He had he threw for 3,073 yards with 21 touchdowns and 9 picks, and had 193 rushing attempts for 783 yards and 13 touchdowns. But he was definitely inconsistent.
It's part of a platoon as well, too.
And a lot of those yards came when they were about 50 points behind, and they had to
he didn't even
throw the ball on every down.
Yeah, I wouldn't take Brissett or Williams on this list at all, but continue on, please.
Okay, Brandon Kaya of Miami, who Clemson
Brad Kaya, is that right?
Brad Kaya. Brad Kaya.
Good young quarterback.
He will be on the Clemson will face him. South Carolina faced him in the bowl game. He was a freshman quarterback. That South Carolina defense actually made him look a little bit like a freshman.
True.
They said that was the first time they'd seen a quarterback flustered all year.
He's very mature, very, very poised kid.
Well, I think by that time, South Carolina had established, at least in their defense, their linebackers getting fit in the intermediate area in that football game.
Gunnar Kiel, who was, according to Les Miles, scared to play at LSU. And then he went to Notre Dame, and then he now plays at Cincinnati and is doing well there. So he's rated number 12. Justin Thomas at Georgia Tech, leading that Rambling Wreck offense, which is so difficult to stop that option attack. Paul Johnson just whispers in the plays and chews up defenses.
I will tell you this. I've never seen a quarterback in years that runs the option that's got the gun he has. That's a dangerous combination when you got a guy that's comfortable running the option, but when he backs up, you hold your breath.
I concur. He's one of the first I've seen with that offense in Paul Johnson's entire time that's like an actual threat with his arm. He's fun to watch.
We're going to skip ahead to the top 5 now.
3 of them are Ohio State quarterbacks. Right?
Yeah, I haven't seen an Ohio State quarterback yet. But I'm not going to give it away. Dak Prescott is number 5, expected to take control of the Mississippi State offense and take it to another level perhaps this year. He's very good. I was impressed with him when he played in Columbia a few years ago before Mississippi State really came into his own. He came into his own. He is a big, strong, talented quarterback, completed 61% of his passes, almost 3,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, ran 210 times for almost 1,000 yards. That's pretty salty for a college quarterback. He's number 5 on the list, and I think you make an argument he could be up there. They have, here we go, Pro, for you. They have 3C, Braxton Miller, Ohio State, 3B, JT Barrett, Ohio State, 3A, Cardell Jones,
Okay.
Ohio State.
So they're all number 3s, huh?
So they all, which is kind of a cop-out. I think that's a little bit of a cop-out.
But they got a tremendous running game, which helps them. Their play action works so well because of their running game.
I think Jones is going to be.
Can you not have the job after you win a national
How do you
title?
not?
I don't know if it's
Unless
possible.
he struggles, unless he hits some kind of slump, which we see happen every now and then when teams get more scouting on him. But man, and he did it all right.
In a weird way, you won a national title, but at the same time, you talk about the pressure. You know, you've got 2 proven guys behind you. All it takes is one pick, one bad play, and somebody within that fan base, maybe even the coaching staff, is going to say, "Hey, we got 2 guys."
And let's
that can
face
play.
it. Let's face it. When teams went to scout them in the postseason, they didn't have enough film on him to see any tendencies or whatever.
Exactly.
So that came to an advantage. Now they're looking at the postseason and see what does this guy do when he's comfortable, when he's not. And it'll be interesting to see how if he is the starter, how they deal with that.
All right, now we have moved to the number 1 rated quarterback going into the 2015
You're
season.
going to skip number 2?
According to Sports on Earth. Yeah, I'm skipping
All
number 2. We're only doing guys that matter. If you
All
want
right,
to know
yeah.
number 2,
Yeah,
it's,
who's number
it's,
2?
the guy from Southern Cal, Kessler.
Oh, Kessler's still there?
Yeah.
Cody? Okay.
Yeah, he's number 2.
All right, now
but
for
the number
number
1
one, drum roll.
is, well, we kind of gave it away if you were listening to the tease at the top of the hour. Deshaun Watson. How about that? Deshaun Watson. Here's what they say about Watson. There is a danger in letting the hype get out of control. Watson is a sophomore who has started only 5 games and played in 8. He has missed 3 games with a broken hand, and he's coming off surgery to repair a torn ACL. He'll be playing behind a questionable offensive line that just unexpectedly lost its best player, left tackle Isaiah Battle, to the supplemental draft. He lost offensive coordinator Chad Morris to SMU. So go ahead and add up the negatives. There are significant caveats here, but it took only 3 games for Cardell Jones to become a superstar. Sure, those games double as the biggest stage in the sport, but Watson's potential is obvious too. And in a season in which there are no clear-cut top quarterbacks, Watson has potential to be the best quarterback in college football, even if putting him here now requires a leap of faith. In the games he played, he completed 67.9% for 1,466 yards with 14 touchdowns and 2 picks, and he ran 63 times for 205 touchdowns. He averaged 10.7 yards per attempt and had a passer rating of 188.6, both of which were higher than Marcus Mariota. He's mature beyond his years as a quarterback with a command of the offense, a strong arm, confidence, poise, and mobility, all of which he showed the minute he stepped on the field. If he stays healthy, he's a superstar and a Heisman candidate, whether it's this year or next. Despite the hangups entering 2015, it's worth betting on his stardom sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. The only thing I would say is he better practice. I would think he's going to be 10 to 15 pounds heavier because he's going to have to run, even though you would prefer him to throw, because of that line. That's a questionable line they have, and he's going to have to come out of there. I'll never forget, just going back, guys, years ago, when the Atlanta Falcons drafted a quarterback out of California who was the number 1 quarterback in the country, Steve Bartkowski. But to get him, they traded their left tackle. And guess what happened to him? That first year, he got beat up because they traded his protection. The way that Clemson line goes is the way Deshaun Watson goes.
Some more rumblings out of North Carolina and the NCAA. We'll update that on the other side. right, another recruit dealing with North Carolina has passed along some information he got. Offensive lineman Pete Leota of Asheville said the North Carolina AD told him everything is going to be fine with the academic scandal. They think they're in the clear. So if you listen to what's coming out of North Carolina right now, the Tar Heels are feeling pretty good about avoiding any major sanctions for their football program and their men's basketball program. Actual and the women's basketball program might not be as fortunate. Somebody's got to pay the price, but it doesn't sound like they think it's going to be football. Pretty incredible.
I wouldn't be, it's a funny thing. If I'm at the NCAA and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at some of the transgressions I see academically at North Carolina, and I'm reading the paper, they're telling the recruits that we're in the clear. We're not going to. Oh, no, you're not. Is that what y'all telling them? See, sometimes you bring stuff on yourself by talking. Sometimes you just keep your mouth shut and you throw yourself on the mercy of the court. But I just can't see
nothing
happening, because even if nothing happens, that old ogre stands up which says lack of institutional control, because if you didn't know it was going on, it's still your fault because it's on your watch.
They did self-impose a few sanctions not too long ago. They took themselves out of the postseason a couple of years ago and out of contention for the ACC title game. Maybe they took a few steps away from football. I don't recall. It seems like it's been a decade-long investigation into North Carolina athletics, starting with the football program. It's kind of bled into the basketball program now. But to think that nothing would come out of it in terms of more sanctions from the NCAA, they would say, oh, okay, it's all good, you guys. That would be interesting, to say the least. Now, admittedly, I haven't followed this as closely as others. I've watched it on the periphery, but still, just what little bit that I have followed, it looks pretty clear that some stuff was going on there that should not have been going on, whether it goes back to the Butch Davis era or not. And there hasn't really been a lot of major ramifications for North Carolina right now.
Well, the big thing is you go back to a lot of the banks looking like they were getting ready to fall out. And what's the term we used? Too big to fail. Mm. And so one of your glory programs you have there, they tried to gloss over Penn State, but that went into criminal activity, and they couldn't do anything about that. It'd be interesting to see how they handle this, because I know this investigation is going on not only to see what malfeasance went on, but how can we schmooze this so we won't make North Carolina one of the programs we used to point up as an example that people ought to be.
Coming here from the USC, which about to start some work with Team USA in the U19 squad. All right, let's get into Dawn Staley. Her comments before she packs her bags for an early flight tomorrow. She better have them packed. She's leaving at 6 a.m. to head out with Team USA and start coaching the U19 team. Asia Wilson will be on that squad. A couple of our other players, Tiffany Mitchell and Elena Coates, will be playing in the Pan America Games. So they'll also be making their way out to Colorado. And here's what Coach Staley had to say earlier today.
It is a huge honor to be able to represent your country and to have a team full of studs and try to get them to mesh and play together as a unit. That's probably going to be the hard part because all of them will be challenged in the way of having to sacrifice what they do for their normal team. So we had our coaching staff had a real great opportunity in getting a team full of talented players to play together and do it quickly. So hopefully, we'll draw on those experiences of our season last year to help with coaching this U19 team.
I'm sure when you say team full of studs, you're including Asia Wilson in that group, right?
Absolutely. She's a stud. Yeah, she's a stud. She's a stud. You got to believe it. And, I think, with her being one of the more experienced players, I'll anticipate that she will step up and become a leader like she was for USA basketball team, the U18 team. So looking forward to her just sharpening her leadership skills and getting ready for her to, one day be a leader for our women's basketball team here.
Dawn, Team USA is obviously a big honor, but it's also a big time
Yeah,
commitment.
it is.
You've done it a lot. Has there ever been a thought in your mind of maybe, I'm a little busy, or has there ever been a thought of turning down one of these invitations that you did?
No, I've never wanted to turn down, but once you made the commitment, you think about, missing, all of July recruiting, which is a big deal for us because we haven't signed anybody in our 2016 class. We feel a little bit better because we have, we've gotten some transfers, so we can feel good about knowing that, we will have top level players competing in the 2016 year.
How did Alicia Gray happen?
Alicia Gray, once we found out that she was going to transfer, we actually received a call from her father. And when we got that call, you don't turn down a player of that caliber. Alicia Gray, we know extremely well, she and her family, because she was on campus before she committed to go to North Carolina. So we know them well. I've been to her high school a number of times, and her family's been on campus a lot. So it was an easy, decision to bring her a part of our Gamecock family.
Were you surprised? Was that a call out of the blue?
It was a call out of the blue, but just given what's occurring on their campus, it made sense because her father's a principal. He's an educator, so he was really concerned about that.
Dawn, how much do you encourage your players to strive for an Olympic invite and to do their best in these tryout camps?
Well, all of our, Coach McCray and I are Olympians, and we played at the highest level, and the, experience of playing in an Olympic Games is second to none, because you're playing against the best competition in the world, and you learn a lot of life lessons. You gain so many friendships just from tackling a feat of becoming an Olympian and a gold medalist.
Has there ever been a player that you've had in any Olympic experience that might have been kind of anxious about, possibility of getting hurt, maybe wanting to take the summer off?
No, all the ones that have participated in USA basketball or any, national team, we welcome, them to do that. They are probably the top level talented players, so they want to play and experience basketball in a lot of different forms. So, they're not worried about getting hurt. I think they leave that worrying to the coaches.
Do your players get something out of international play they don't get out of the college game?
I would say that what they get out of international play is a different style of play and how to adjust to international basketball. It's quicker. It's 24-second shot clock. You probably have to sacrifice a lot more because, a player like the Tiffany Mitchell and Asia Wilson and Elena Coates, they're not going to play probably more than 20 minutes. So they have to adjust to, playing with better players and being efficient. Being efficient in the time that they'll get on the floor.
Don, what is your schedule? Well, you and Asia's schedule, and then Lay and Tiff's schedule. When will you guys leave, and when will you be coming back?
Asia and I will leave tomorrow morning. I think we're on the 6 a.m. flight. And we'll be together until I got it down to 4 Tuesday. So we leave Tuesday, and we'll be back on the 4th Tuesday of this month. And then Lay and Tiff, they leave Friday for Colorado Springs. So we'll actually get an opportunity to scrimmage them in the night sessions.
And y'all go to Spain, and then
we'll go to Spain, and then we'll go to Russia. And I believe they're going right to Toronto right after their training camp.
When I spoke to you in Destin, I think one of the things you told me was the fact you wanted Asia's work ethic needed to improve. I think you want to have a millionaire. You want to be a millionaire, but had 100-air or 1,000-air work mentality.
Yeah,
so, have you seen that this summer from her in terms of, and will this experience be good for her in terms of helping her boost that work ethic?
Asia's been putting in a lot of extra work, with in the gym as well as in the weight room.
Yeah.
And that's something that's going to benefit her. She has to continue. I'm going to make sure that she does it during the month that we're together. I'm going to take on and do her weight workout with her just to ensure that she's supposed to do what she's supposed to do. I don't know how I'm probably be limping for the next month or so, but it is, it's a commitment by everybody. So I'm going to commit to doing it with her to make sure that, she's not losing anything by playing USA basketball as far as the weight room.
With all these transfers coming in now, you brought in 3 pretty good transfers here. Of course, one played this year, 2 next year. That's sort of surrounding the South Carolina program now with everything you guys accomplished this past year in terms of and the future of the program as well too.
Well, I think people like the way we play the game. I
Yeah.
think they really understand that, we try to, each and every one of our players individually, they get better. And also we're able to play as a cohesive unit. And I know a lot of times, maybe players nowadays would like to go somewhere and shoulder a program. And that's really hard work to do that on a, especially at a high level. You want to play with other players who are equally as good as you. And then bottom line, I think the players that choose to come to South Carolina, they're choosing for the ultimate goal, which is to win a national championship. And, they know they'll get better individually, but we're also setting our sights high on achieving something that's never been done here at the University of South Carolina.
Don, do you have any feelings on the governor's pronouncement last week?
I did. I think it's a great thing. And I think it was a tragic situation that what happened in Charleston. But those 9 victims gave the ultimate sacrifice of their lives for the greater good of the state of South Carolina.
Your team has perhaps been as impacted by this issue as any. Has this resonated with you personally, perhaps because your team's been directly affected by it?
Well, I think it's more, it's more on a personal level now because of, what has transpired, over the past 2 weeks. And then you kind of reflect on, what will happen in the future, as far as in the back of our minds, those 9 victims will always be in the forefront of what was taking place. And, basketball is really small when you compare it to what happened in Charleston.
You significantly agreed to boost your payment obligations to the school and in your new contract in the event that you leave. Are you sending the signal that you're committed to this program long term, both the recruits, the fans, and everybody else out there?
Our coaching staff has worked extremely hard in building a reputable program and trying to create a tradition here at South Carolina. And our university has been tremendous in backing not just myself, but our coaching staff, our program.
All right, Dawn Staley joining us earlier over at the Darla Moore School of Business, Preston Building. Yeah, I told you about the list that comes out. Everybody making different lists. We just did the list of top quarterbacks going into the 2015 season, a list that Deshaun Watson topped according to Sports on Earth. Here's one from Sporting News, the top 10 quotable coaches. Number 10 is Urban Meyer. Ugh. Ugh.
Quotable?
I wouldn't call him quotable. I will say this, Urban Meyer actually won me over a little bit down in Miami during the Orange Bowl, but I still think he's a slime ball.
God.
Number 9 is Nick Saban.
What could he have possibly done to win you over?
Well, I just enjoyed listening to him. He's a great football coach.
Oh,
he
got
knows the
sucked
game.
in. He covered just a little bit. And
you do have to appreciate people that are great at their craft in terms of coaching football and doing what they do. He's good at what he does, but at what cost? I think there are other guys that do it that are equally good at their craft that maybe do it in a little bit better way. Nick Saban's number 9. When has he ever been quotable? He's kind of, is Bill Belichick only college coach? That would be like saying Bill Belichick.
Wait till the conference meetings to say something.
Gary Patterson's number 8 on the list, a Texas Christian coach. Art Briles is 7th.
2 more mundane
10
guys.
most quotable coaches in college football. Number 6, Dabo Swinney. I think he's got to be a little higher.
Sure.
And this guy comes up with Daboisms on a weekly basis.
Tweet that.
He's very good. It's only unthinkable if you don't think it. Come on. That's worth top 5 right there.
Yeah.
Don't let dirty people walk all over your mind.
Yeah. That sounds like Yogi Berra.
I forgot about that one.
He's got
half this game.
I love Daboisms. I enjoy the Daboisms.
That's like one of Yogi Berra's. 90% of this game is half mental.
Les Miles is number 5, and the Mad Hatter deserves to be in there.
Plenty of chest there.
He does goofy things. Mike Leach is number 4. He's certainly, if you ever are trying to kill some time, YouTube some videos of Mike Leach when he was at Texas Tech and talks about his pirate obsession, and he gives dating advice.
It's unfortunate he's out there Washington State now, not a little bit closer to us. We don't see him as often.
And see, that's what scares you. Is this guy has a law degree.
He's
Could
a
you
smart
imagine
guy.
if he was in the courtroom?
Jimbo Fisher's number 3 on the list. He's got the good old boy.
He's learned to be a lawyer in the past year, that's for sure. Having to defend Jameis and all that stuff. Boy, it was like a spinning the same wheel every week, man. What do you think about Jameis? And you just get the same spiel. And he'd look right into the camera. He's learned. He definitely had to learn on the fly.
Jim Harbaugh is number 2 on the list, a first-year Michigan coach who is known for his pleated khaki pants that I think he wears everywhere and not getting along with management in the NFL. So now he can just go do what guys like to do that are control freaks. You don't really do well as a control freak in the NFL. You can be a control freak in college. Ask Nick Saban. Even Steve Spurrier, to a different kind of degree, he didn't like being in the NFL and having a guy above him tell him who his players were going to be and who he had to play. Same with Harbaugh. Very good NFL coach that did a very good job with the 49ers, but wanted to be his own boss in terms of running his program. And he is pretty quotable. I enjoy Harbaugh. And number 1, surprise, surprise, well, the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. So he's number 1 on the list. I hope there is a younger generation of coaches that ascribe to the Steve Spurrier style. And it's hard to do that because Spurrier has been able to back it up on the field throughout his career. And he didn't talk a lot when he wasn't winning at South Carolina. When he started winning, when they had those 3 11-win seasons, he was chirping a little more. When they beat Clemson 5 straight years, you could see after each win, he would dig a little deeper when he was digging. But most coaches now, they do the Bill Belichick, I'm not telling you anything. I'm giving you the most vanilla, boring answers. And I understand that in this day of social media and the 24-hour news cycle, even for sports, it's 24-hour news cycle. But it is so refreshing to have Steve Spurrier and Dabo Swinney, guys that are not afraid to give you a straight up, long, honest answer about what they feel and what they think. Now, they're 2 different styles, but there isn't a more bluntly honest coach in America than Steve Spurrier, and there probably never will be. a guy that opens his practices up. He just, what are they going to see? He's just a straight shooter, to the point we were talking about this today when he left that press conference after the Tennessee loss. It was probably the smartest thing he could have done at that point, because had he stayed in there and answered questions, God only knows what he would have said. And he knew that too. I can't sit in here and answer any questions. You guys saw it. I'm gone.
There you go.
I know why he took heat. I'm not necessarily defending it, but I know exactly
Better
why he
to take
walked out
that
of that
kind of
room.
heat than to open
Yeah.
your mouth and say something you shouldn't.
A national college basketball note, Bo Ryan is retiring after one more season with the Wisconsin Badgers. What a job he's done with that program year in and year out. And they came within a sniff of handing Bo Ryan a national championship. They knocked off Kentucky, the only team to beat Kentucky last year, and couldn't beat Duke, but they had an impressive team. And Frank Kaminsky, who Michael Jordan apparently really wanted Frank Kaminsky, turning down six first-rounders to get Frank the Tank. I would have just taken Winslow anyway. I would have turned it down and just taken Winslow myself. I don't know how you let him get out of your backyard. I don't know what they're doing in Charlotte.
I've
never been able to quite figure that out.
Know?
Again, I thought he had learned. Now, Kaminsky may turn out to be a decent player, but I thought Jordan had learned from Adam Morrison when he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I always looked at the NCAA tournament to see players, see what they do. But a lot of times a lot of players don't make it far in the NCAA tournament, or they play at a lower level and you never see him. But he never thought of that. Adam Morrison had a good tournament, so I'm picking him.
He's not had a very good track record, guys. And I'm sure there's a GM in place and there's other people consulting, but
you put that mildly.
Yeah, Concrete Kwame Brown, just awful picks. You mentioned Adam Morrison. They took Zeller. I don't know why they took Zeller.
The other
a few years
pick
ago.
they made out of North Carolina. Who was he?
Rashad McCants. Oh,
Sean
May.
May. And I knew it. I hated to say that, but I said his daddy was a bust and he's a bust. And of course, his dad was, I think, Player of the Year one year at Indiana when they went undefeated that year. But he was a bust. The games just don't, and that's, I really don't want to sound like it's a knock, but we've seen great college players whose games don't translate to the NBA. Now, a guy who made himself a player, who was a good role player, was Corliss Williamson. Corliss Williamson knew at his height and his weight, his game didn't translate to the NBA. So he took off, 50, 60 pounds and made himself a small forward. Some guys can do that. Some guys can't.
That's going to do it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. We will hopefully track down Monty Lee and talk about his new pitching coach tomorrow night. So we'll take your phone calls, jump into more of your emails. Corn will still be on vacation. We will have recruiting, even though Corn is gone. Recruiting continues. Chip Weil, president of Darlington Raceway, will be on. They're going down to Daytona this weekend for the Coke. I still call it the Firecracker 400, but that's just me. Thanks to Graham Pope. Thanks to the Professor Tom Hayes. Thanks to Larkin Belton behind the glass. Have yourself a great night. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place here on Sports Talk.